Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our special Halloween October edition of the Morning Book Buzz. We're so excited to share our favorite books with you. That was for you, Jen Rubens. We dressed in costumes for you this morning, and we hope you're as excited as we are for this fun month. The thing I'm most scared about in October is that I'm going to eat all of the Halloween candy before the trick-or-treaters show up. That's always my biggest fear. But so far, so good. So I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves. I'll start off. I'm Jen, and we're going to share our favorite scary books. I picked The Murder of Mr. Wickham. I know it's not the scariest book there is, but that's how I roll. If you haven't checked this out, this is a really super cute mystery series by Claudia Gray.
And I'm Maureen Meekins. I went classic. I'm sure you all know Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson, but you can't go wrong with that. And I do love a good horror book, so I've read it several times.
And I am Sharnell Johnson. And I picked theme music by T. Marie Vandelli. Um, I didn't know what to expect going into this, and I definitely had the creeps after I read it. So I highly suggest it if you like that sort of thing.
Great. And we'd love to hear what your favorite scary reads are. Drop them in the chat or post them on Twitter and tag us. Um, please share. And just a reminder for those of you who are new, hopefully I see a lot of return names here, but we'll be presenting a great list of books. There'll be a key that indicates what formats our books are usually available in a wide array of formats, whether it be hardcover, large print, ebook, audio, of course, and we have an adorable orange e-pumpkin this month, which will symbolize if a book has an e-galley available, usually both on NetGalley and Edelweiss. So please do request the books that pique your interest. Just a quick mention, I know Banned Books Week is behind us, but alas, it's become a cause that is needed year-round. As you know, Penguin Random House is really committed to fighting book bans around the country. We have a really amazing resource site for you. I hope you do check it out. Let us know if you're experiencing issues in your area where we want to hear about them to help do whatever we can. Please visit our site at penguinrandomhouse.com/banned books. And then for those of you who may have missed it, we had an amazing event last week with Booklist and Unite Against Book Bans, a webinar where we premiered the amazing speech that Dr. Ibram X. Kendi uh, did at ALA Annual last year, a really amazing rallying cry for librarians and readers and people everywhere. If you did not get the chance to join us, it is available in the archive. You can see the tiny URL here. We'll also send it out in the wrap up. I do hope you get a chance to watch it. It was a really moving speech. Also introduced by Tracy Hall of ALA and Chris Jackson, who is Dr. Kendi's publisher at One World.
Join us tomorrow at 1 um, p.m. Eastern for season 3 of Library Lunch and Learn Music Edition. We'll be joined by Colby Maddox and Laura Brethol from Old Town School of Folk Music's Library and Archives, and the editors of LL Cool J Presents The Streets Win, Vicky Tobick and Alec Banks, which should be very, very fun. And then we've got two more big virtual events coming up. So join us for Library Journal's Day of Dialogue on October 26th and Library Journal and School Library Journal's LibraryCon Live on November 9th. And make sure you register for both of those events at the link on the screen.
We are headed to AASL, so if you're going, be sure to stop by our booth number 731 for some hot galleys, giveaways, swag, and more. And for more information, you can visit the URL on the screen. And be sure to check out our latest samplers for graphic novels and fandom and debuts featuring excerpts from some must-read books that your patrons won't want to miss. You can find them both at the tiny URL on the screen, as well as the complete collection of excerpt samplers that we have.
And now on to the books. We've got some ghostly guarantees here for your holds list. And up first is Christmas and Other Horrors by Ellen Datlow. Hugo Award-winning editor and horror legend Ellen Datlow presents a terrifying and chilling horror anthology of original short stories exploring the endless terrors of winter solstice traditions across the globe, featuring chillers by Stephen Graham Jones, Alma Katsu, and many more. The winter solstice is celebrated as a time of joy around the world, yet the long nights also conjure a darker tradition of ghouls, hauntings, and visitations. This anthology of all news stories invites you to huddle around the fire and revel in the unholy, the dangerous, the horrific aspects of a time when families and friends come together for better and for worse. Christmas and Other Horrors captures the heart and horror of the festive season. And then we have The Gin Waits 100 Years by Shubnam Khan. Akbar Manzil was once a great estate off the coast of South Africa. Nearly a century later, it stands in ruins, an isolated boarding house for eclectic misfits, seeking solely to disappear into the mansion's dark corridors, except for Sana. Unlike the others, she is curious and questioning and finds herself irresistibly drawn to the history of the mansion, to the eerie and forgotten East Wing, home to a clutter of broken and abandoned objects, and to the door at its end, locked for decades. Behind the door is a bedroom frozen in time and a worn diary that whispers of a dark past, the long forgotten story of a young woman named Mina who died there tragically 100 years ago. Watching Sana from the room's shadows uh, is besotted, grieving Jin, an invisible spirit who has haunted the mansion since her mysterious death. Obsessed with Mina's story and unaware of the creature that follows her, Sana digs into the past like fingers into a wound, dredging up old and terrible secrets that will change the lives of everyone living and dead at Akbar Manzil. Sublime, heart wrenching, and lyrically stunning, The Gin Waits 100 Years is a haunting, a love story, and a mystery, all twined beautifully into one young girl's search for belonging.
In The Warm Hands of Ghosts, set during the Great War, a combat nurse searches for her brother, believed dead in the trenches, despite eerie signs that suggest otherwise, in this hauntingly beautiful historical novel with a speculative twist from the New York Times bestselling author of The Bear and the Nightingale. January 1918. Laura Ivan was a revered field nurse until she was wounded and discharged from the medical corps, leaving behind a brother still fighting in Flanders. Now home in Canada, Laura receives word of Freddie's death in combat, along with his personal effects. But something doesn't make sense. Determined to uncover the truth, Laura returns to Belgium as a volunteer at a private hospital, where she soon hears whispers about haunted trenches and a strange hotelier whose wine gives soldiers the gift of oblivion. Could Freddie have escaped the battlefield only to fall prey to something or someone else? November 1917. Freddie Ivan awakes after an explosion to find himself trapped in an overturned pillbox with a wounded enemy soldier, a German, by the name of Hans Winter. Against all odds, the two form an alliance and succeed in clawing their way out. Unable to bear the thought of returning to the killing fields, especially on opposite sides, they take refuge with a mysterious man who seems to have the power to make the hellscape of the trenches disappear. As shells rain down on Flanders and ghosts move among those yet living, Laura and Freddie's deepest traumas are reawakened. Now they must decide whether their world is worth salvaging or better left behind entirely. And I love this. This book was actually inspired by real World War I lore. Author Catherine Arden was inspired by the fact that nearly every firsthand account of World War I includes mention of sightings of ghosts, supernatural encounters, and the occult, and she became obsessed with understanding why this historical moment was so freighted with the fantastical.
That sounds really cool. What a great mix of history and horror. This next one is for your creepy supernatural suspense readers who love authors like Riley Sager and Simone St. James. A Haunting in the Arctic by C.J. Cook tells the story of a deserted shipwreck off the coast of Iceland that holds terrors and dark secrets. The year is 1901, and Nikki is attacked, then wakes on board the Orman, a whaling ship embarked on what could be its last voyage. With land still weeks away, it's just her, the freezing ocean, and the crew, and they're all owed something only she can give them. Now, over 100 years later, the wreck of the Orman has washed up on the forbidding remote coast of Iceland. It's scheduled to be destroyed, but explorer Dominique feels an inexplicable pull to document its last days, even though those who have ventured onto the wreck before her have met uncanny ends. On board the boat, Dominique will uncover a dark past riddled with lies, cruelty, and murder, and her discovery will change everything, because she'll soon realize she's not alone. Something has walked the floors of the Orman for almost a century, something that craves revenge. This is spine-chilling and atmospheric, and a must-read for spooky season.
Creepy. Um, in Next up is Monsters We Have Made by Lindsay Stark. 10 years ago, Sylvia Gray's young daughter Faye attacked her babysitter in order to impress the Kingman, a monster that she and her best friend had encountered on the internet. When the now 21-year-old Faye goes missing, leaving her toddler behind, Sylvia launches a search that propels her back into the past and back into the Kingman's orbit. With the help of her estranged husband, her estranged sister, and a charismatic professor, Sylvia draws dangerously closer not only to Faye but also the truth about the monster that once inspired her. Will Sylvia be able to reach her daughter before history repeats itself? Or will it be Sylvia this time who loses her grip on reality and succumbs to the dark powers of this monstrous figure? A poignant and evocative novel that explores the bounds of familial love, the high stakes of parenthood, and the tenuous divide between fiction and reality.
And for your readers looking for a darkly humorous mystery, we have You'd Look Better as a Ghost by Joanna Wallace. This is a comic thriller following the trials and tribulations of Claire, a part-time serial killer who's keen to keep her favorite hobby a secret, despite the efforts of a determined blackmailer. The night after her father's funeral, Claire meets Lucas in a bar. Lucas doesn't know it, but it's not a chance meeting. One thoughtless mistyped email has put him in the crosshairs of an extremely put-out serial killer. But before they make eye contact, before Claire lets him buy her a drink, even before she takes him home and carves him up into little pieces, something about that night is very wrong because someone is watching Claire, someone who's about to discover her murderous little hobby. The thing is, it's not sensible to tangle with a part-time serial killer, even one who's distracted by attending a weekly bereavement support group and trying to get her art career off the ground. Will Claire finish off her blackmailer before her pursuer reveals all? Let the games begin. And we've brewed up a batch of spellbinding, witchy reads that your patrons won't be able to resist, starting with Island Witch by Amanda Jayatissa, set in 19th century Sri Lanka and inspired by local folklore. Being the daughter of the village Kapua, or demon priest, Amara is used to keeping mostly to herself. Influenced by the new religious practices brought in by the British colonizers, the villagers who once respected her father's craft have turned on the family. Yet they all seem to call on him whenever supernatural disturbances arise. Now, someone or something is viciously seizing upon men in the jungle, but instead of enlisting Amara's father's help, the villagers have accused him of carrying out the attacks himself. As she tries to clear her father's name, Amara finds herself haunted by dreams that eerily predict the dark forces on her island, and she can't shake the feeling that it's all connected to the night she was recovering from a strange illness and woke up scared, confused, to hear her mother's frantic cries. No one can find out what happened. This is a lush, transportive read, and R.L. Stine says, every once in a while, a book comes along that drops you into another world and takes you places you never could imagine. This is that book, an astounding accomplishment.
And you can't argue with R.L. Stein, so you
No,
know it's good.
right. I put that in there just so no one had an argument.
Oh, yeah. So up next we have The Frame Up by Gwenda Bond. A magically gifted artist must gather her estranged mother's old crew for a once-in-a-lifetime heist from the New York Times bestselling author of Stranger Things, Suspicious Minds. Danny Poisant is the daughter and former accomplice of the world's most famous art thief, as well as being an expert forger in her own right. The secret to their success, a little thing called magic, kept rigorously secret from the non magical world. Danny's mother possesses the power of persuasion, able to bend people to her will, whereas Danny has the ability to make any forgery she undertakes feel like the genuine article. At 17, concerned about the corrupting influence of her mother's shadowy partner, Archer, Danny impulsively sold her mother out to the FBI, an act she has always regretted. 10 years later, Archer seeks her out, asking her to steal a particular painting for him since her mother's still in jail. In return, he will reconcile her with her mother and reunite her with her mother's old gang, including her former best friend Mia and Elliot, the love of her life. The problem is, it's a nearly impossible job, even with the magical talents of the people she once considered family backing her up. The painting is in the never before viewed private collection of a deceased billionaire named William Hackworth, otherwise known as the Fortress of Art. It's a job that needs a year to plan, and Danny has just over 1 week. Worse, she's not exactly gotten a warm welcome from her former colleagues, especially not from Elliot, who has grown from a weedy teen to a smoking hot adult. And then there is the biggest puzzle of all, why Archer wants her to steal a portrait of himself, which clearly dates back to 1890, instead of much more valuable works of art by Vermeer or Rothko. Who is her mother's partner really, and what does he want? The more Danny learns, the more she understands she may be in way over her head, and that there is far more at stake in this job than she ever realized. So this book has an art heist, lost love, second chance, love triangle, magic underground, found family, and a very cute dog. So what's not to love,
Fun. It's got everything.
right?
Next up, in the Book of Love, the long-awaited debut novel from best-selling author and Pulitzer Prize finalist Kelly Link, three teenagers become pawns in a supernatural power struggle. Late one night, Laura, Daniel, and Mo find themselves beneath the fluorescent lights of a high school classroom, almost a year after disappearing from their hometown, the small seaside community of Lovesend, Massachusetts, having long been presumed dead, which in fact they are. With them in the room is their previously unremarkable high school music teacher, who seems to know something about their disappearance and what has brought them back again. Desperate to reclaim their lives, the three agree to the terms of the bargain their music teacher proposes. They will be given a series of magical tasks. While they undertake them, they may return to their families and friends, but they can tell no one where they've been. In the end, there will be winners and there will be losers. But their resurrection has attracted the notice of other supernatural figures, all with their own agendas. As Laura, Daniel, and Mo grapple with the pieces of the lives they left behind, and Laura's sister Susanna attempts to reconcile what she remembers with what she fears, these mysterious others begin to arrive, engulfing their community in danger and chaos, and it becomes imperative that the teens solve the mystery of their deaths to avert a looming disaster. Definitely shades of Stranger Things here. Um, Super creepy.
Sounds really good.
Yeah.
And then next we have We Are Only Ghosts by Jeffrey L. Richards. An exhilarating, brutally candid saga about sexuality and war, tenderness and trauma, young desire and fierce hate, as a teenage boy's unexpected, complicated relationship with a Nazi officer in a World War II death camp is resurrected in 1960s New York City. So the year is 1968, and the customers at Cafe Marie don't just come for the excellent coffee and pastries. They come for the sophisticated ambiance and the illusion of being somewhere other than a bustling, exhausting city. Head waiter Charles Ward helps create that illusion through impeccable service, unobtrusive, nearly invisible, yet always watchful. It's a skill Charles honed as a young Jewish boy in war torn Europe when avoiding attention might mean the difference between life and death. But even then, one man saw him all too clearly, a Nazi officer who was both his savior and tormentor. At 17, Charles was deported to Auschwitz with his family. There, he was singled out by Berthold Worden, who hid him in his home. Their entanglement produced a tortured affection mixed with hatred that flares to life again decades later when Berthold walks into Cafe Marie. Drawn back into Berthold's orbit, Charles is forced to revisit the pain and the brief, undeniable pleasures of the life he once knew. And if he acts on his growing hunger for revenge, will he lose his only tether to the past, the only other witness to who he was and everything he endured while finding peace at last?
And next, Sangu Mandana, author of The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, welcomes you to A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping, an enchanting novel about a witch who has a second chance to get her magical powers and her life back on track. Sarah Swan was once one of the most powerful witches in Britain. Then she resurrected her great aunt Jasmine from the very recently dead, lost most of her magic, befriended a semi villainous talking fox, and was exiled from her magical guild. Now she slightly reluctantly and a bit grumpily helps Aunt Jasmine run an inn in Lancashire where she deals with her quirky guest shenanigans, tries to keep the talking fox in check, and longs for the magical future that she lost. When she learns about an old spell book that could hold the secret to restoring her power, she finds herself turning to Luke Larson, a gorgeous and icy historian who might be the only person who can help her unlock the book's mysteries. Running an inn, reclaiming lost magic, and trying not to fall in love is a lot for anyone, but Sierra is about to discover that she doesn't have to do it alone, and that the weird, wonderful family she made might be the best magic of all. This whimsical, witchy read is perfect for fans of practical magic and the once and future witches.
Next up is The Garden by Claire Beams. In 1948, Irene Willard, who's had 5 previous miscarriages in a quest to give her beloved husband the child he desperately desires and is now pregnant again, comes to an isolated hospital in the Berkshires. Aileen, another one set in New England, run by a husband and wife team of doctors who are pioneering a cure for her condition. Warily, she enlists herself in the efforts of the doctor's hall to rectify the maternal environment, both physical and psychological. In the meantime, she also discovers a long forgotten walled garden on the spacious grounds, a place imbued with its own powers and pulls. As the doctor's plans begin to crumble, Irene and her fellow patients make a desperate bid to harness the power of the garden for themselves and must face the incalculable risks associated with such incalculable rewards. With shades of Shirley Jackson and Rosemary's Baby, the garden delves into the territory of motherhood, childbirth, the mysteries of the female body, and the ways it has always been controlled and corralled. Author Kelly Link says of the novel, the garden renders beautifully the uncanny, haunted space that pregnancy both occupies and creates. Beam's glancing needle-prick prose reminds me of Shirley Jackson's work in its ability to conjure up women, their histories, their fears, the complexities of their desires, and their power. I loved this novel.
You had me at Shirley Jackson and Rosemary's
I
Baby.
had a feeling.
Okay, I'm gonna start with the treat of chocolate all day, and I probably don't need to say anything else, but I will because it's my job, and we'll dive into some of the chocolate treats that are in this book. But this is by Stephen Hodge. He's a chocolatier and a patissier, the owner of Temperate Chocolate and Pastry in Vancouver, and the co-host of Food Network Canada's Chocolate Showdown. So he knows a thing or two, and in this cookbook, he brings us over 100 rich, delicious, yet accessible recipes for baking with chocolate all day long, which is on my to-do list for the weekend. Chocolate is one of those foods that is universally loved, but he knows that it can be intimidating for home bakers. So in his first book, he's here to take the mystery out of chocolate with these meticulously tested recipes that will inspire home bakers of all skill levels. For instance, we have Wake Up with Chocolate Sticky Buns, White Chocolate Raspberry Scones, Banana Cream Chocolate Pie, Chocolate Raspberry Brownies, and even for kids, Easy Made Chocolate Bars and Milk Chocolate Covered Caramel Apples, just to name a few. So in addition to these show-stopping recipes, he also gives plenty of advice on buying, storing, and working with chocolate. He'll show you how to temper it, how to create chocolate decorations, and how to fix your desserts if something goes wrong. With chocolate all day as your guide, your favorite ingredient to eat will become your favorite to bake with.
Yum. Now on to snacking bakes. You can instantly satisfy your cravings with this collection of sweet and savory bakes that are delicious and easy to make. Trusted baker Yossi Arifi promises simple recipes that require minimal effort with big rewards. Almost every treat can be made in under 1 hour, in one bowl, and with no fancy ingredients or equipment, leaving you with less time in the kitchen and more time for snacking. That's a cookbook that's up my alley for sure.
Speaking my language.
Yep. Its approachable, crowd-pleasing style makes it the perfect introduction to baking, too, even for kids. Yossi covers all the baked good bases with recipes that feature a wide range of enticing flavors, as I said, even savory, and each are accompanied by gorgeous photography shot by Yossi herself. And then if we don't have everyone here clamoring for treats, I'm now going to present the cookie that changed my life. I'm sure you're all familiar with Nancy Silverton. She made her reputation as the original pastry chef for Wolfgang Puck's restaurant Spago. 2 years ago, Silverton bit into a particularly delicious peanut butter cookie and had an epiphany. Every single thing we bake should taste this good. And so she decided to return to her roots and set to work perfecting the rest of the American baking canon. Alongside the classics like lemon bars, key lime pie, layered buttermilk biscuits, Silverton includes a handful of her own inventions: double-decker chocolate cookies, double the fun, iced raisin bars, a better fig Newton, and chocolate brandy cake. Chocolate and brandy, what more could you want? All sure to become future classics. With more than 100 perfected recipes, The Cookie That Changed My Life is a veritable encyclopedia of the very best things to bake.
And Baking Wonderland by Jean Parker and Rachel Smith is a mix and match cookbook for kids. It's perfect for parents who are looking for easy and imaginative ideas for their kids in the kitchen, and it's a great way for young bakers to explore and have fun with cooking. It's the perfect first baking book for children to use their imagination, learn new skills, and take their baking adventures to out of this world heights. Inside, there are magical baking wonderland recipes like elemento peanut butter cookies, ruby red velvet cupcakes, baked strawberries and cream donuts, and disappearing chocolate cake. Plus, you can learn how to mix and match your favorite treats with fillings, frostings, glazes, toppings, and milks that will have you taste testing over and over. This cookbook is all about having fun and encouraging children to develop new skills in the kitchen and engage little ones with curious minds to play with their food.
Yeah, I think my daughter would absolutely love that, so I have to keep my eye on it.
Same, adding to my list.
Yes. And now we have something a little bit different. This is the Witcher official cookbook by Anita Sarna and Carolina Krupeka, sorry. Um, So in this, there are 80 mouthwatering and restorative recipes inspired by the best-selling video game series The Witcher, from hearty tavern fare to fortifying drinks to lavish banquets for feasts with friends. Take a culinary journey through the fantastical world of The Witcher with thoughtfully imagined, flavorful recipes inspired by The Witcher's expansive settings, characters, and lore. In this beautifully photographed cookbook, Anita Sarna and Carolina Krupeka, the creators of fan favorite food blogs Nerd's Kitchen and Witcher Kitchen, share their meticulously researched, immersive recipes that give fans a taste of the distinct flavors a Witcher might sample as he travels the countryside in search of monsters to slay and coin to earn. These dishes celebrate local and seasonal ingredients while adding unique twists that form a culinary map of the continent and beyond. Warm up over a bowl of fragrant stew or juicy baked fruit from the namesake trees of White Orchard, and a hard journey to Velen with a hearty rustic meal at a local tavern. Enjoy an aromatic snack as you stroll the markets of Oxenfurt. Sample dishes from near and far in the diverse port city of Novigrad. Dine on freshly caught fish and drinks on the islands of Skellige. Feast on rich dishes in the sun-drenched climates of Toussaint and Beauclair, or forage on the perilous road to Mauren.
Did we
So
lose her?
Oh, I think
Oh,
are you there, Sharnell?
a little
I'm
in and
here.
out. Yeah,
Okay.
I hear you now.
Sorry. Well, I don't know where you stopped hearing me, but I'll wrap it up to say that unfortunately, Henry Cavill doesn't come to your house to make these recipes for you, so you'll have to cook them for yourself, which is unfortunate, but still pretty good. So, um, and then up next, we have Mochi by Sabrina Fauda Roll. Learn how to perfect the beloved Asian dessert at home with mochi. This delicious, colorful book features 22 mochi recipes from chocolate, passion fruit, and sesame to lemon myrtle, matcha coconut, and red bean paste. With a comprehensive step-by-step guide to making and shaping your own pillowy soft mochi dough, easy to follow recipes for all the fillings imaginable, plus all the basics, this book will leave you never wanting store-bought mochi again.
I always wondered how to make mochi.
Yum.
Now I
Yeah,
know.
that
Now I can
Well,
find out.
now you can
right, there
find
you go.
out. Next up, the call is coming from inside the library. Mysteries and thrillers. I'm going to start with Midnight by Amy McCulloch. In Midnight, a once in a lifetime trip to Antarctica to camp beneath the legendary midnight sun becomes a desperate battle for survival against a killer determined to follow their prey to the ends of the earth. Olivia Campbell has always dreamed of spending a sunlit night on the frigid Antarctic continent. I cannot relate to that, but whatever. Whatever your goals are. But as an actuary who assesses risk for a living, she never imagined she'd have the chance. So when her career takes an unexpected detour and her boyfriend, a high-powered art dealer with a taste for the finer things in life, decides to stage an ostentatious career-making auction on a luxury liner to Antarctica, Olivia is thrilled. That is, until things start to feel a bit strange. In addition to the scores of wealthy patrons and potential buyers, they'll also be traveling alongside a small group of beleaguered employees of Pioneer Adventures, the company responsible for managing the ship, along with their charismatic yet divisive CEO. When the first bodies are discovered, it's easy enough for Olivia to write it off as a terrible accident. But as the situation heats up and the temperatures continue to plummet, she begins to wonder whether she might have booked a one-way ticket to her own demise. And then next is First Sly Wins by Ashley Elston. Evie Porter has everything a nice Southern girl could want: a perfect, doting boyfriend, a house with a white picket fence and a garden, a fancy group of friends. The only catch? Evie Porter doesn't exist. The identity comes first. Evie Porter. Once she's given a name and location by her mysterious boss, Mr. Smith, she learns everything there is to know about the town and the people in it. Then the mark, Ryan Sumner. The last piece of the puzzle is the job. Evie isn't privy to Mr. Smith's real identity, but she knows this job will be different. Ryan has gotten under her skin, and she's starting to envision a different sort of life for herself. But Evie can't make any mistakes, especially after what happened last time, because the one thing she's worked her entire life to keep clean, the one identity she could always go back to, her real identity, just walked into this town. Evie Porter must stay one step ahead of her past while making sure there's still a future in front of her. The stakes couldn't be higher, but then Evie has always liked a challenge. Lisa Gardner says of this book, "Buckle up. First Lie Wins features some of the best cat and mouse suspense I've read in years, while serving up plenty of heart along this wild ride."
That sounds really good. I have to add that one to the pile. Um, Up next is Smoke Kings by Jamal Mayfield. In the vein of Get Out and Razorblade Tears, this is a feast of noir fiction and probing social commentary that asks us to consider what would happen if reparations were finally charged and exacted. Nate Evers, a young Black political activist, struggles with rage as his people are being killed in the streets 62 years after Emmett Till. When his little cousin is murdered, Nate shuns the graffiti murals, candlelight vigils, and Twitter hashtags that are commonplace after these senseless deaths. Instead, he leads three grief stricken friends on a mission of retribution, kidnapping the descendants of long ago perpetrators of hate crimes, confronting the targets with their racist lineages, and forcing them to pay reparations to a community fund. For three of the group members, the results mean justice, but for Nate, pure revenge. Not all targets go quietly into the night, though, and Nate and his friends' worlds spiral out of control when they confront the wrong man. Now, the leader of a white supremacist group is hot on their tails, as as is a jaded lawman with some disturbingly racist views of his own. As the four vigilantes fight to thwart their ruthless pursuers, they're forced to accept the age old truth. Before you embark on a journey of revenge, dig two graves. Smoke Kings is a powerful and propulsive debut with a diverse and unforgettable cast of characters. Like Steph Cha's Your House Will Pay, it explores decades of racial tensions through a fictional landscape where the line between justice and revenge are blurred. And then next we have Finding Sophie by Imran Mahmood. From the acclaimed author of You Don't Know Me comes a novel that is equal parts family drama and thriller as two parents conduct an increasingly desperate search for their missing daughter. For the last 17 years, Harry and Zara King's lives have revolved around their one and only daughter, Sophie. One day, Sophie leaves the house and is never seen again. It has been 6 weeks since that day, and the police are no closer to finding her than when they first started. Harry and Zara have questioned everyone who has ever had any connection to Sophie to no avail. Except there's one house, number 210 across the street, whose occupant refuses to break his silence. The question mark over 210's devolves into obsession. As it does, Harry and Zara are forced to examine their own lives. One day they realize they have grown and suffered apart in their separate spheres of grief. And now, as they try to find their way back to one another, they must face the truth about their daughter, who she was, how she changed, and why she disappeared. Told in alternating perspectives from Harry and Zara, in in a dual timeline between the present day and a year later in the middle of a murder trial. Imran Mahmood's taut yet profoundly moving novel explores how differently grief can be experienced even when shared by parents, and how hope triumphs when it's placed in the kind of love that knows no bounds.
And You Know What You Did by Katie Nguyen is a thrilling debut for fans of Lisa Jewell and Celeste Ng about three generations of Vietnamese American women coming to terms with nightmares, past and present. Artist Annie Shaw seems to have it all: a dream career, a devoted husband, and a whip smart teenage daughter. But when her mother, a Vietnam War refugee, dies suddenly one night, Annie's carefully curated life starts to unravel. She spent her adulthood trying to escape her difficult upbringing, raised by a single mother in small town Ohio, isolated by poverty and race, and has tried her best to give her own daughter a completely different childhood. But in the wake of her mother's death, Annie's obsessive compulsive disorder comes roaring back, and this time the disturbing fixations swirling around in Annie's brain might actually be coming true. When a prominent art patron goes missing, the investigation zeroes in on Annie. Under mounting police scrutiny, she begins to question her own involvement in the disappearance. Is Annie somehow bringing her nightmares to life? Terrified for the safety of her family and friends, Annie pushes everyone away, only to wake up in a hotel room, naked next to a lifeless body. The police have more questions, but with her mind increasingly fractured, Annie doesn't have answers. All she knows is this: she will do anything to protect her daughter, even if it means losing herself. With dizzying twists, You Know What You Did is both a harrowing thriller and a heartfelt exploration of the refugee experience, the legacies we leave for our children, and the unbreakable bonds between mothers and daughters. And Parasite meets Such a Fun Age in the scorching debut While We Were Burning by Sarah Coffey. After her best friend's mysterious death, Elizabeth Smith's picture perfect life in the Memphis suburbs has spiraled out of control, so much so that she hires a personal assistant to keep herself on track. Composed and elegant, Brianna is exactly who she needs and slides so neatly into Elizabeth's life. But soon, the assistant Elizabeth hired to distract her from her obsession with her friend's death is the same person working with her to uncover the truth behind it, because Brianna has questions too. She wants to know why the police killed her young black son, why someone in Elizabeth's neighborhood called the cops on him that day, who took that first step that stole her child away from her. And the only way she's ever going to be able to find out is to entwine herself deep into Elizabeth's life, where the answers to her questions lie. As the two women hurtle towards an electrifying final showdown and the lines between employer and friend blur, it becomes clear that neither of them is what they first appear. This gripping story is perfect for book clubs and for readers of My Sister the Serial Killer and The Other Black Girl.
And now we move on to magical family listening. First is The Puppets of Spellhorst from the master storyteller Kate DiCamillo and read by Odyssey Award-winning narrator Alan Cordiner. Comes an original fairy tale in which five puppets confront circumstances beyond their control with patience, cunning, and high spirits. This book has earned a starred review from Booklist, and the narrator, Alan Cordiner, is beloved for his narration of Anna and the Swallow Man and the Book Thief audiobooks. And you might actually recognize him from My Fair Lady on Broadway or from the show Homeland. This book is by a beloved author of modern classics who draws on her most moving themes with humor, heart, and wisdom in the first of the Normandy tales, a projected trio of novellas linked by place and mood. A magical and beautiful gift, The Puppet of Spellhorst is a tale that soothes and strengthens us on our journey, leading us through whatever dark forest we find ourselves in. And then uh, we have Wonka. This is soon to be major motion picture starring Timothy Chalamet as Willy Wonka. We're still waiting for the narrator to be announced. But check your holds for this new era of Roald Dahl. This film is one of many new Dahl cinematic experiences to release, from Tika Waititi's new animated series about the Oompa Loompas of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory to the new Matilda musical. This film is sure to usher in even more interest. Listening Libraries Roald Dahl audiobooks are an all-star example of great listening, including read, the award-winning Matilda read by Kate Winslet. And the movie has an all-star cast. I already talked about Timothy Chalamet, but he will be alongside Olivia Colman, Sally Hawkins, Atkinson, and Keegan Michael Key. And it is a fresh take on a classic, and I am so excited for the audiobook and the movie.
Very
And then,
fun.
of course, oh,
Sorry.
no, you're fine. Uh, of course, we all know that audiobooks are not cheating, but how about we remind your patrons and sign up for the audiobooks are not cheating swag for your library? And you can sign up with the link on the screen that we will be sending out in our wrap up. And that's
That's it.
everything.
That
Yeah.
yes. Thank you, and especially thank you for such an engaged chat. It's been really fun reading all your comments. We love when we feel like the books are connecting with you, so we really appreciate your engagement. And good luck not eating your Halloween candy before Halloween, everyone. It sounds like it's gonna be tough. Thank you, everyone. See you next month.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.